Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Maggie Daniels, and she's so much fun to talk to. Seriously, I could have just kept talking to her all night long, I think, but we both had to go and walk our puppies, so we had to say goodbye. If you have not already, hit that like and subscribe button. Do it now so you never miss an episode. Welcome, Maggie, to the Write or Die Show. Super excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here today.
I love your glasses. They're a little similar. I like that.
Thank you. I buy direct. Sponsor me, please. It's very easy to order your prescriptions through that website. Game changer.
Nice. Yeah. I've been using Zilul, so yeah, same thing.
Oh yeah, same shtick.
Yeah, exactly. Who is Maggie? Tell us about you.
Well, my mom used to describe me as a magenta girl living in a khaki world. And I think that was just, it was a really sweet way to say that. It was just weird. I grew up with dyslexia. So it's labeled as like a learning disability, but I view it as more of a learning difference.
I love that.
My brain filters things differently. Like if I say left, go right, it's right. Like just do the opposite of what I say. Yeah. But yeah, it feels like a superpower sometimes. Like I watch those like crime shows where someone's thinking about something and you see visually the math breaking down. Yes. Yeah, that's how it sometimes feels. Like you're some crazy person that has like a secret like viewing like I don't know.
Yeah. So I always tell people, because me and my kid, we both have autism. And so I always tell people it's just that the brain thinks differently.
Yeah, it's just different.
Right? Just like you with the dyslexia, you're just processing things differently. You're a person like anybody else.
Yeah, I just don't consider it I just think disability is just it just puts it in a negative space.
It has a very negative connotation. Yeah, yes, it really does. Same with when you tell people you've got a mental illness. People are immediate like, oh, okay, you're crazy. And you're like,
yeah, lock the doors, like click. Yeah.
Right? Cross the street. It's so funny. Okay. So we just had new neighbors move in by the house beside us, I guess last summer. And when people were coming through looking at the house or whatever, the one guy, as we're leaving, the guy comes over and he goes, so we're really thinking about putting an offer in on this house, but so how long have you guys been here? 9 years, something like that, a while. And so he goes, okay, so is there any crazy neighbors around or anything that I need to know about? My husband's like, no, it's just fine. It's good. Everybody's nice. Get in the car. And my husband goes, he didn't ask if we were the weird neighbors.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wait. If we eliminate everyone, that just leaves us.
Exactly. Yeah. So
growing up, mental health, especially in the 90s, 2000, it was such a taboo. I feel like any time between before now, basically this generation, I feel like mental health was extremely taboo to talk about. It was behind closed doors, especially if it was like a small town. Like my grandmother was the Kris Jenner of her town. Like she threw the Christmas Eve party, and she was an extravagant woman, from born in the 20s, grew up in the time where women entertained and all that jazz. But she was also very, very smart. Like she played the game, but she was also one of those women that stuck it to him any chance she properly could. You know what I mean?
Oh, I like that. Your grandma sounds like an awesome lady.
Oh man, she was great. She was great. She was a teacher. She taught for most of her life in high heels. Crazy.
Yeah, I do not do heels. My feet could not take those.
That woman was all about proper, all the things, all the ladies are ladies and stuff. And she would make me walk in high heels on Oriental rugs with encyclopedias on my head.
Oh my goodness.
Because ladies walk with a nice posture. And honestly, until her 70s, 80s, that woman could put that book on her head with high heels, and it it was nothing. I was like, damn.
And it's so interesting when you look at the different generations, because that really is how they were back then. And now we're
it's just funny what was important to people.
Right? Exactly. Wouldn't have been caught dead with like crazy makeup or like a hat. Like
that woman
right.
did not leave the house without lipstick. Like one time she was in the hospital for a heart attack and something in the chemical of lipstick she couldn't have around the machinery or something.
Oh,
I don't
no.
remember the details, but her doctor said, don't put on makeup. And when he left, she just very angrily, she was like, you hand me my purse right now. And she just took out her lipstick and put it on. And it was just adorable. But
yeah. Oh, grandmas are so funny that way.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So let's talk about dyslexia first, and then we'll get into mental health, because again, dyslexia is not mental health, but I feel like it still has a stigma around it and it's still something that we need to talk about. So first and foremost, tell people what dyslexia is.
It's a brain, it's the way you process information, the way your brain receives new information, like reading or spelling, like learning those fundamental things just comes harder. Like the cookie cutter way of education, the way my brain process it just doesn't fit into those lines of understanding. I just had to always take a different route, and every case with dyslexia is different. So it's really hard to like everyone with dyslexia like have the same symptoms, if that makes sense, or the same struggles. But it's all very familiar. All comes down to processing information. And like it took me forever to learn how to read. I was really, really slow to that party. But what helped me learn, like break through that understanding, was poetry. I learned how to read through Silverstein, Where a Sidewalk Ends.
I used to love those. Yes.
So good. Where Light On in the Attic, all of his books. And
those were my two favorite, Light On in the Attic and Where the Sidewalk Ends. I used to check them out of my elementary school library all the stinking time.
They're on my shelf right now. Like I love them. I think the rhythm, it just clicked for me. And I feel like that's why I naturally gravitated to poetry my whole life, because like that's how I learned how to understand language.
That is awesome.
Yeah. But dyslexia came with its like own societal traumas though, because they lump you into that disability, like that negative connotation. They were always trying to put me in like special need classes and everything. My mom was a single mom, and she had to really advocate like aggressively to get me in like better classes and to be taken seriously, like as a student and as a learner at the time. And she was always like, I got home from school and it was school again, because my mom had all these like home tutor books and puzzles and like the leapfrog programs. Yeah. So my mom like went hard in the paint to make sure I was never like socially behind, but it didn't stop like shitty kids from like bullying me at school. I went to like 7 or 8 different schools from like elementary school to high school.
You are preaching the story of my kid. Seriously. They just are constantly giving him work that he could do in his sleep. He's in grade 10 now.
Yeah. And ironically though, in 8th grade, I was the only person in my entire school. The school only had 7th and 8th grade. It is the last technical junior high school in North Carolina, Lumberton Junior High. Shout out Vikings. But 7th, 8th grade, I went there, and 8th grade, I was the only person in the school that scored a perfect score on the literature reading EOG. Yeah. And I was like, this shit's a joke. That shit, I literally didn't read half of the shit, like half of the test, because all the answers are in like the first and last paragraph or whatever. I just saw the pattern, so I didn't have to read the shit. And I felt like I had a superpower, like that old movie with Bruce Willis when the kid has autism and he accidentally solves the like CIA code in a puzzle. I forget the name of that movie.
I cannot remember either.
Not for the life of, but I've seen it so many times. Such a good movie. And growing up as a kid, I always related that. I was like, yeah, I feel you, kid. Like I see it too. Like I see it too. Like, so yeah, it feels like a superpower.
Yeah. So it sounds like our Canadian and your American school system is a little similar in the facts that they don't give differently thinking kids a chance.
No, No one can read out here, but the highways are real smooth in some places. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially back in North Carolina, like nobody can read, but it's real smooth to drive around. Like all the money goes to the highways.
I wish, because we have lots of money funneled into our school system. Our roads are super bumpy. But
oh my God, same thing in Colorado. I'm over it. So many potholes. We got all this weed money. No one's filling potholes.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And then the school system just crumbling. Anyways, I could rant about how horrible our school system is for days on end.
Yeah, girl, I don't even have kids. I just remember being one.
Yeah. So we're going to push forward. So when were you diagnosed with dyslexia?
I would say 4 or 5. Or younger, maybe 4. I want to say 4.
Ah, so you were little.
I was little. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good though,
really
because
young.
the sooner that people can diagnose that, like notice that there's an issue and that you're learning differently, the sooner they can help you learn the way that you need to.
Yeah. But
Ideally.
Stubbornness up here, it just never shifted over.
And that's why it's ideally.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. My mom tried though. She tried.
Yeah, but I'm sure she did. Yeah. Sometimes it's like pulling our hair out trying to get kids to do what we know is best for them, but they just don't do it.
Oh my God. I remember I had a tutor at the school. I went to Flora McDonald Academy in Red Springs, North Carolina for like a couple years. And I would be so dramatic coming home because the lady was like conservative. We like had to meet in this tiny little office with it was just big enough for the desk.
Oh,
and
wow.
like there were only like 5 or 6 people in my class because it was a private school, it was a very small grade. So like 3 out of like 6 of those kids like picked on me. And so I had to go off to this tutor and she was like dorky and like just like conservative and just like emotionally like not like she was just all book, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
And so I would just come home and just like cry to my mom and be like, this is going to kill me. Like it's killing me, like over dramatic. And I remember my mom telling my tutor, like me over being over dramatic. And I realized the adults talk to each other because I went to the tutor the next day and she was like teaching me how to spell something. And she was like, Maggie, I'm not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you to do this work. Like,
oh, I know it. My kid, when he used to come home from school and be like, so how was your day? And at first he before he clued in, you know, oh, it was fine or whatever. I go, yeah, well, your principal called me or teacher called me. They told me whatever. So as time went on, I'd go, so how was your day? Who called you? And because I just always wanted to know how his day was, there was times when I was like, oh, nobody called me. Should they have called me?
Oh man. Shout out to the days of voicemails and landlines because
delete.
We would always get home before my mom and delete it. Like, oh my God. I remember one time we were doing something reckless, like playing with like paintball guns, like, but with like in a drive-by scenario, like just reckless, terrible, like teenage shit.
Oh dear.
And I remember somebody's mama all mad, left a fear. I heard her leave the voicemail. And I was like, oh, we can get back to the house before mom. And we did. We got back, never found out about it. My mom's dead now, so she still didn't find out about it.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, we got away with it. But shout out to voicemails. Yeah, we would run home and delete it.
Yeah, you don't have that choice anymore.
No, technology now. Oh God, I feel for kids. Now you can't do anything. Like they're still tracker, like you're
I put data on my kid's phone just so I could know where they were all the time.
Yeah, which is great. I wish I would have had that as a kid. I probably like needed it because I was reckless. That's
it makes me feel so much better as a parent because like, whew.
Yeah,
it's crazy days out there, you know?
It is. It is.
Okay, so that's pretty cool that you got diagnosed so early and sounds like your mom was really trying to help, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Clearly it worked out for you because you're an author now.
Yeah, it did. It did work out. I find that ironic that so many kids used to pick on me, like reading in class, or I remember even going to church, like Bible study or something, like snarky little girls being like, I thought we were in the same grade. Like, you can't read from the Bible. I'm like, what the fuck is Jeremiah got to do with anything? Like, you know, like, like these are old English ass words anyway. Like, they don't even. But like, I just got picked on everywhere for it. And now like people read my work and they're like, oh my God, like this, like this is so good. Like, your work helps me, it inspires me, it helps me from a
I
dark
love
place and stuff.
that. I love it.
Because I wrote it when my mom died. My mom passed away on my birthday in 2019.
Ooh.
I was 26 and she was 62, so we were the
So
reverse.
young.
Yeah, and massive heart attack when she was home, and yeah, very scary. So to process that trauma, I just started writing again, and I just kind of threw up into this book. Like, I just wrote so much, and I finally published a book. My mom and I had always talked about me publishing a poetry book, and so I dedicated Swimming to her.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but I've had people approach me that they haven't been able to like put into words how they were feeling in those like devastating moments or high peak emotional moments, and just being able to relate to the how to see it in language and to process it through words is helping other people, and that makes me feel really good. But a lot of people approach me and I'll joke and I'm like, they're like, oh, it helped me so much. I'm like, great, hope it starts helping me, because that'd be great. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, it does. I use poetry to process like in the moment emotions, and then I use writing films to process, like go deep, like why do I have these triggers, like what in my like childhood trauma, PTSD, where's that coming from, and I dig a little deeper and go into like and separate. I find writing screenplays, I separate my trauma from myself, and like I put it on the characters, and now like once I get done with it, it's like it's their weight to carry, and it's indescribable the relief I get from that. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of us writers do, is take our issues, our past, our traumas, and give them to our characters and let them deal with it. You figure it out.
Yeah.
And by doing so, we're kind of figuring it out for ourselves as well.
Yeah, in a manner of like, you become the neutral party. It's like you make yourself the neutral party.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears now and talk about mental health. I mean, you've already a little bit brought it up. You said PTSD. Tell us from whatever point in your story makes sense to start, and just take us through your story.
So I would start in my childhood. My mom, love her so much. God rest her soul. But she struggled heavily with her mental health. And she actually went to college and got a major in psychology. And to be frank, she was the craziest person I knew. So the fact that she could spew off a psychology book, throw the book at you, and still be fucking, it just like, it deterred me from getting help for mental health for so long, because I thought it was like all a sham. I'm like, if this crazy bitch is quoting the Bible to y'all, like, then who like, it's a sham if she can't even see that she's crazy, and she went to school to diagnose crazy, like, you know what I'm saying? That was where I was mentally for a long time, but I'm getting better. I'm getting more comfortable with the like idea of like talking to someone, doing that kind of therapy.
Yes.
I really want to try the ketamine therapy for PTSD. There are a lot of trials in Denver for that.
Okay.
I've had friends preach that it's really helped them a lot.
Good.
So I'm getting more comfortable with approaching other avenues for my mental health. But yeah, I think my mom is where I would start. I strongly believe she was bipolar. I don't think she ever went anywhere to diagnose that, or maybe she did and just didn't tell anybody, but it was not subtle, you know, like everyone.
You just knew.
Yeah. Like when I was a kid, I used to wish my mom was like a junkie, like an alcoholic or a drug addict, because other kids would like get it, like, oh, she's just drunk, or like, that's just your mom, you know. But like mental health, like unpredictable behavior and mood swings, children just don't understand that. It's like a substance isn't causing it, or at least like true, it's not society it's not acceptable for it to be happening if something isn't making it happen. You know what I mean?
Love the way you worded it, because that that's what it comes down to, is what is society accepting? And in the 90s, early 2000s, it was fine. Like, it wasn't fine, but it was
and even before
acceptable.
As long as it was a substance related thing, it was like, oh, okay, it's not their fault. Like, we get it.
Exactly.
But mental health, you didn't get it. And my mom was born in the 50s. And I love my grandfather, but he had a lot of hardships. He was an alcoholic that like unnoticed that he was an alcoholic, you know what I mean? But he was in World War II. He had a good reason to drink. He survived World War II when he was 18 years old. He was a prisoner of war. He did the 100-mile walk with the Jews. With a broken back. And amazing man. But he had PTSD long before they knew what that was from war shock and all that. So he was supposedly very like, the more I learn about my grandfather as an adult, the more I get like raw stories from people in the like older people in the family. And apparently he took a lot of his like triggers and PTSD reactions and alcoholism out on my mother when she was a child, and it was in the 50s. So it was like more like, it wasn't necessarily considered society's acceptance. But it definitely was technically abuse. And that was just from him not dealing with his own war trauma, because no one knew what it was. Like, I can't, like, the older I get, I understand that all these people I'm mentioning were human beings with their own trauma that went untreated. And this is the like trickling effect of it. And I really think it made my mom like develop bipolarism. And it just got worse and worse. My parents separated when I was 4. And that's when I started noticing a massive shift in my mother. Like, the woman who told me I was magenta in a khaki world, that's who my mom is. That's my mom to the core. She's an artist. She was a photographer. She was a photography teacher at the University of Pembroke for years. Cool. She went to Brooks, California Institute for Film and Photography. She was amazing. She was very talented. She could make anything with her hands.
That's so cool.
She did calligraphy. Like, she could do any font on the computer she could do with her hands. Like, it was
my goodness,
effortless. Like, I wish I had an ounce of my mother's talent. And she even wrote poetry. She was amazing. And she just never leaned into, she never had the confidence to like go after, pursue her own like well-being. Because her generational like her family always would just like hit her, because they didn't understand they were, socialites of the town, successful, and they just had this like standard of how to be viewed as a family. So they just kind of always wanted to muffle and put my mom's problems under the rug, and it just just affected her life too much. And they were like very controlled, that kind of, you go to college, we pay for it, if not we cut you off, like things like that. And my mom, seeing my mom be affected so heavily by not managing her mental health or even taking time for her own well-being is really what drives me on a daily basis to take care of myself. Because I just gradually saw the light fade from her. The woman that told me I was magenta in a khaki world, that's my mom. The woman who told me several times in my childhood and adulthood that I wasn't worth the bullet it would take to send me to hell. That was my mom's bipolarism and mental health and anger issues and all those things. And that's something that echoes in my mind a lot. I think I've heard my mom in my lifetime yell at me more than like have a kind conversation. All of those are like linked to my like childhood. And
that's really hard as very hard as a child to hear that. Like, as an adult now, you can look at your mom and like think back on her.
See her as a human.
Exactly. But as a kid, you have no,
you don't understand. I was going to get a glass of water. My mom had just had an argument with either my dad or my brother, and I was walking to get a glass of water, And she just made eye contact with me and she was mad. And I was just like, well, I'm not thirsty anymore. I'm just gonna go back to bed. And she said that every time she got mad at me for like the rest of my life. Even after she had a stroke and she didn't like remember parts, like she had memory loss. I remember one day she was mad at me and she yelled. She was living in my basement at the time. I was her caregiver. And she was, after you have a stroke, you can go through like really drastic mood swings. Like you can just be sitting there and you'll just start crying uncontrollably.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Or you'll start laughing. And it's not because anything's funny. It's just like your brain is just jumbled up.
Yeah.
And hers was already like that. So after the stroke, the intense negativity just got so much more. And I remember she was in my basement and she yelled up at me and she was like, "You're still not worth the fucking bullet."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that killed me. And that year she stopped talking to me because, like I said, her mental health declined. It was 2016. We bought a townhome that was too small. We couldn't afford to buy the house that she was living in with us.
Oh, okay.
And so we ended up buying a smaller house. So she had to move back to her home in North Carolina. And she was convinced that we intentionally bought a smaller home to like kick her. She thought we kicked her out.
Yeah.
So she didn't speak to me for the last 4 years of her life.
Oh my goodness. That's rough.
So yeah. So if anything, when it comes to my mental health, I always start with my mother.
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah.
Yeah. And it went downhill. The shift in her mental health, I would say, when she lost, well, she physically lost the love of her life. She was engaged and he died of like testicular cancer in like the early 80s. And yeah, once that happens, you kind of like a piece of you is gone.
Yeah.
And she met my dad, and he was also someone that had PTSD from war because it was a Desert Storm and they still didn't really know what PTSD really was.
Yeah.
So they had their issues. And my dad was younger than my mom by like 5 or 6 years, maybe.
Okay.
So he's in his like mid 20s and my mom's already in her 30s. And her mental health is like starting to like show and everything, like her bipolarism. And he just didn't know what to do. Like he didn't have the maturity, and he was just like an army guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was in the military. He just didn't have the capacity to deal with it. And so they separated and they stayed married, but they were separated my whole childhood and until she died, but they were friends like towards the end. But how they weren't very communicative when they separated. So one night my brother went to one of my cousin's house and I went to my other aunt and uncle's. And then I came back like a week or two later. It was like a spring break or something. And my dad was gone. All of his stuff was gone. Everything's gone. So in my like kid head, I thought like you go somewhere and spend the night and you lose a parent. So like I couldn't.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like I couldn't go sleep over at a friend's house until I was like 12 years old, because I would just wake up in a panic in the middle of the night and go cry to their parents because I thought I was going to go home and my mom wasn't going to be there.
Yeah. I think that's so important for us to realize is that kids don't understand, especially if you're not talking to them about that.
Yeah.
They don't
understand your kids.
Yeah. They don't understand adult emotions. They don't understand adult relationships. And so kids can only connect the dots that they've been given within the small amount of knowledge that they have. So if you go and you sleep away, you come back and dad's gone, it makes sense. Like that's a very logical assumption, especially if nobody comes and talks to you and explains why.
Yes.
Or like, anything, just like if you go and get a glass of water and mom yells at me, well, I'm not allowed to have water now. Right. Like that is again, another logical connection a child would make. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't know. And you just accept whatever is in your world is correct. Like
exactly.
This is
you
what
don't
it
know.
is.
You don't know outside of your house.
I didn't know until I was an adult, until I started dating my husband. I didn't know that I had been abused. I didn't know I had been mentally abused, physical or sexual. Like I just thought these are things that happen to you.
Yeah.
And honestly, looking back and I'm like, damn, I see why my mom just like gradually mentally declined, because everything just happened at once. Her dad died that year. My grandfather died the same summer my father left.
Oh, that's hard.
So the father of her children leave. I'm like 4. So my brother's 4 years old. He's 8. So she's got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. And my brother's a fucking psychopath. Okay. So
Oh
she's
my
got
gosh.
like one kid that's a kid and one kid that's like trying to kill that kid.
Oh,
And he just got more violent when my dad left, like violent. And I used to think I got gaslighted by my family because like we don't talk, like you don't talk about Bruno, like you know what I'm saying, like
yeah.
for real, that shit's like a family dynamic. And especially in the South, Southern families, they protect the boy at all costs. Fuck the girl, but the boys of the family,
Oh, yeah.
top of the hierarchy for no fucking
Okay.
reason. And I was the only girl in the family, 2 cousins younger and a cousin and my brother older. So smack dab in the middle, nobody gave a fuck about my well-being.
Oh,
Like
man. Well, I
it was
care.
hard. I remember I told my aunt, like I just innocently told my aunt something, and she threatened to call CPS on my mom. And I
Oh,
remember
wow.
after that, my mom just treated me like I was the traitor of the, like
Yeah.
I
Like
turned
you
on the family.
wanted
Like
to call
Maggie can't
CPS.
shut her fucking mouth. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it just got worse from there. And honestly, my aunt should have called CPS because my mom, her mental health, like my mom had like a hoarding problem,
Oh,
and
okay.
things just got so worse. Like I lived in piles of trash in my home as a
Oh,
child,
no.
and we had like mice infestation and all that stuff, and I always tried my hardest to keep my room clean. And I
Hmm.
remember my mom, she used to have it all together, like we had chore charts and everything, and we cleaned the house every
Wow.
day. And I remember one day, and it came down to my brother's like sociopathism. Like I don't know if he's technically that, but he's something.
Yeah.
um it came down to like him one day he like ripped up all of my mom's like mom posters on like chores and stuff, like in an
Okay.
anger rage. And my mom just like she didn't do it again.
Yeah.
And it just like trickled from there. And I would be gaslit, like I said, like when I tried to tell my aunt something, anytime I tried to innocently just give information about like what was going on in my home,
Hmm.
I was the enemy of the family. Like, you don't do that. You don't say those things. And
Hmm.
like it got to the point where I was gaslit so much that I was like, oh, like all those bad memories were dreams. Like that didn't happen
Yeah, that didn't happen. Oh, no.
until I went to my mom's funeral. We have celebration for life because when she died, I couldn't like I knew I had to plan it and make it special. So I took
Yeah.
time because we had her cremated. It wasn't like we
Okay.
needed a casket or anything. So I waited a year and did it on her birthday as like a celebration of life.
Oh,
And
that's
it ended
sweet.
up being a beautiful ceremony. I'm really glad I waited. Um, but when I went into town, I ran into my old elementary school teacher, and she told me that the first year she taught was my class. And
Oh,
so she remembered, she was so excited to be, a pre-K teacher.
yeah.
And she said that they gave an assignment for all of us to draw like our families, like stick figures. And she
Yeah.
said that to this day, she will never forget the picture I drew because it was the most disturbing thing she had ever seen a child draw. And if you don't know, if children are being abused, they will show it in art.
Yeah.
They will show it somehow. They don't even know they're showing it, but they will
Yeah.
show you. So like, just pay attention. Well, she described the picture to me, and she said she called, before I tell you what the picture is, she says she called, she spoke to my grandmother about it. She spoke to my mom about it. All of them brushed it off and like kind of made it disappear, like total, like hush
You
hush,
don't
like,
talk about it.
yeah, don't talk about Bruno. Like
Right. No, no,
totally that
no.
vibe. Excuse me. But anyways, so she tells me what was on the picture. And what was on the picture was stick figures. Me, my mom, my dad, and then my brother, who was 4 years older than me, off to the side, and he was holding a knife with blood dripping down on it. This is what I drew. And it disturbed her so much. She never thought I was safe at home. And I I just like started tearing up because we were at like a flower shop or something. I was just like running into her in town, and I just gave her the biggest hug because it just gave me that confirmation and acknowledgement that I've been gaslitted over my whole life, because I knew why I drew that. I know that the memory, that the reason I drew those stick figures. We were in our backyard playing. I was 4 or 5, so that was when I was in her class.
Yeah.
My brother's like 8 or 9, a boy, so much larger than me, and significantly older. He's in the backyard digging in the dirt, and he liked to play with kitchen knives. Charming, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's digging in the dirt with literally like a steak knife, and he's sitting one knee on the ground and one knee up, and he's just digging in the dirt with a steak knife. And I walk up, being the 4 or 5-year-old, and I'm like, "What you doing?"
Yeah.
And he looked up at me, didn't say a word, but kept digging. And then he looked down. He didn't look down. He was just like looking at me.
Yeah.
And he kept doing the motion.
Yeah.
And then I screamed because while he looked up at me and didn't pay attention, he stuck the steak knife in his knee. And he didn't even react emotionally, physically. I screamed. He just looked down at it, dead faced it, and just pulled it out, blood on the knife, and then just kept digging.
Oh my gosh. So we've been watching a lot of Criminal Minds lately, and that's like serial killer 101. Not that I'm saying your brother's a serial killer, but like
allegedly. Yeah, I don't want to get sued.
Allegedly. But that's what Criminal Minds, right?
I know he hadn't killed nobody. He got hit in the head too many times. I think he suffered a little bit,
And that's another indicator of becoming, again,
all
this
my
is just Criminal Minds.
All my concussions as a childhood, in my childhood though, came from him.
Oh my god.
One time, you remember those Razor scooters? Those metal fucking scooters?
Yeah.
We got them for Christmas that year when they came out. It was all fresh. We had a scooter squad. Everyone on the block got one for Christmas. We were a scooter squad. No bikes here, only scooters. So, anyways, it was gang. But I was riding my bike, and my brother was riding his scooter. And I think I'm like 10 or 12. So he's like 14 or 15, 16. So I don't know the math. Add 4 years to that. So he like, I stuck my tongue out at him or something, just like I'm a kid. And yeah, I love sticking my tongue out at people when I was a kid. And he got mad at me, picked up the Razor scooter, swung it around, and I'm on my bike. So I'm like, I can just haul ass away. No, he throws the scooter at me. It goes over my head, hits my back tire, flips up, hits me in the back of the head. I immediately go over the handlebars. An hour later, I'm in the ER. And then every time this would happen, my mom would go to Walgreens and get like a big stuffed animal and be like, "Your brother got you this sorry gift." Like,
oh my god.
And what does that teach you? Abusive boyfriend trend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, love.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I hit you, but here's a gift.
Yeah, it's fine now. It's totally fine now.
Every time. I remember he broke my nose. I was in 8th grade, and his girlfriend was cheating on him. So he was like 16 or 17. And I saw his girlfriend like kissing another guy or something. So I like called her a whore, because it was like before the whole like we're accepting everybody. Sorry, girls. But I called her like a bad word or something. And I was like, better get your girl. And I was just being an asshole. Yeah. But he totally put his hand on the back of my head in a full rage. We were in the garage, and my mom's minivan car door was open, and he just slammed my face where the car connects to the door, and just crushed my nose. And the reason I know he was a psycho or sociopath is because he only quote unquote like faked remorse if there was evidence of what he just did. Yeah. And so when I turned back, he was already like, before I turned back, he was already like, that's what you get, like, fuck, like about to hit me again. And I turned around, and just blood all down my face. And then he's all like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Don't tell mom, boo." And he always had a story like, "Mom, Maggie ran into something," like the shit you see on like Law and Order. Yeah. Where they're like, "Yeah, she fell." That's the story.
Yeah. A lot of stairs there.
Yeah. Like, I could go on, but I'll tell you one more. One time,
one more.
We were in the backyard. It was like nighttime. And he was in high school, so I'm like middle school, and he's like, oh, Maggie, give me a high five. I went to high five him, but he's just holding a pocket knife. And I couldn't see it.
Okay.
And I luckily just grazed the knife because I'm not that great at contact. But
oh, good.
But I remember I screamed because it cut me a little bit. And my brother immediately had a story and was like, Mom, Maggie's so stupid. She just ran up to me when I was cleaning my pocket knife outside and like tried to high five me with my knife in my hand. When he literally was like, hey, dumb little sixth grader, come give me a high five.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I hate a motherfucking gaslighter, man. Like,
you had a pretty rough childhood, a pretty extreme family situation, to put it lightly.
The sad part is that was the tip of the iceberg. Like, those are just stories I'm comfortable telling, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I remember I wrote in swimming, there's a poem called Maggie and the Monsters. And it's like a 3-line poem. It's when I was small, monsters lived down the hall and mice would eat through the walls as I dream of brighter days. And the monsters were obviously my fucking psycho brother and my mom's mental health. Like, I love my mother, but it was her mental health. It was like the looming.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her. She had this other kid that was like fucking neurotic, and her dad just died. Her husband, like I wish I could go back in time and just like be a friend for my mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all I can do is just like fix myself.
Yeah. So speaking of fixing yourself, right segue here. Let's talk about what coping strategies you found along the way that have helped. Writing, obviously. We know that.
Yes, writing. I smoke a lot of weed, honestly. I am very pro like mushrooms, like mushroom tea, microdosing mushrooms. I think we'll see mushrooms becoming legal pretty soon. In Colorado, they're decriminalized. Like, you can have them. I'm really into holistic medicine, like acupuncture. Oh, acupuncture, man, physically, the relief.
I have done acupuncture a couple of times, and at first I have to say I was like a little scared, right? Because the little needles. It's not that bad. It feels really good,
especially if you get someone that specializes in Chinese qi, and Chinese qi is like the medicine of like blood flow. And oh man, I feel weightless. Like, it feels like a high. It feels like you just plugged in and someone like takes all the negativity out of your body. And it's a very recharging experience. And if you have access to acupuncture, I highly recommend. It's very beneficial mentally and physically.
So good.
Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to try that ketamine experiment treatment that they do, where you really have to you really focus, you like face your trauma. Like, there's no hiding from it, because they medically induce you with the ketamine is like peyote, similar to peyote. So you really like trip balls, but in like a medical facility.
Yeah.
And it basically makes your trauma play back for you without you emotionally reacting to it. So I'm really curious to experience that. I haven't done the traditional like talk to a therapist, because I have a lot of medical trauma as well. Because when I got diagnosed with PTSD and everything, and I have IBS, how it came about, I had an emergency surgery, and afterwards I just started getting violently ill, and I'd have to go to the hospital to get me to stop vomiting. And turns out I have IBS and extreme anxiety. And when my body gets overstressed, I literally get physically ill, and I have to go to the hospital and get IV fluids, all the stuff, or I won't stop throwing up. And I was miserable from like 2012 to like 2016. I had no idea. Like,
that's a long time.
Yeah. I lost, in 1 year, from 2012 to 2013, I lost almost 200 pounds. Because, when in high school, middle school, I started gaining weight because I realized that when you're a child and you get abused physically or sexually, or any kind of abuse as a child, if you're not like aware of it, say you like mentally like block it out to a point you like think it's a dream or something, or to save yourself, your psyche blocks it out, but your body doesn't forget it. So that's how like some kids end up like gaining weight or overeating when they're kids. And like you can see it in pictures. I can like pinpoint like when I started physically getting abused.
Wow.
But once I realized, when I got like turned 19, my body was just like, I can't take it anymore. I had a traumatic like appendix removal surgery, and my body was like, no, we're done. We got to deal with this trauma. And it just started physically reacting, and your body doesn't forget the trauma. And it's very physical now. And I'm just like working through it.
Yeah.
And writing really helps. But like I said, acupuncture is my friend.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Excellent. And you know what? I've had 98 episodes or something crazy like that. And I can't recall anyone else saying acupuncture. So this is why I love talking to all sorts of different people, because there's always something different out there.
Yeah, there is. And whatever works for you, you know what I'm saying? Like, and be selfish about it. Like really take the time and do it.
That's the title of my self-care book. Be selfish.
There you go. There you go. You know.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Because we do need to be a little bit selfish.
Yeah.
Like you can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of yourself. So be selfish.
Exactly. I think that's half the problem with the world. And I feel like when we all went inside for the pandemic and everything, everyone realized that like everything we make up in a society, all the hoops we jump through don't fucking matter. Yes. What matters is what the fuck brings you joy. If you're stuck inside, then what brings you joy? Like you alone in a room, what gives you life?
Yeah.
And I feel like we had a slight awakening as a society, like globally during that time. And that's why I'd like the mass, like walk out and resigning wave and all that stuff. I feel like we took a moment. I hope it happens again for people, not like tragically, but like I hope that insight really trickles through. And I feel like for a lot of people it is like it changed a lot. It switched people's mindsets. Yeah.
I love that. So what? Well, I mean, we know what you've written. It's called Swimming. You want to hold it up. So it's this adorable little book. I have my copy right here too. Yeah. See, it's really cute and little, right? Like,
it's a little palm size.
I love it. It's so cute. I can't wait to actually read it. And of course, everyone check out the blog for when the review gets posted, because it will be coming eventually.
And there's an audiobook available on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. Yes, it was so fun. I'm reading it.
I love audiobooks.
Yes, I'm
like so excited.
I love dyslexic kid. All the summer reading shit for high school. My mom would just buy me the tape. She knew I was not going to read that, so she got me the CDs for the car, and all summer I want to get the
audio version now instead. I love audio version.
I highly recommend listening to the audio of The Great Gatsby.
Okay. On point. Actually, this one, Embracing Me, I turned that one into an audiobook last year.
Oh, fun.
Love it. I learned a lot through the process. So the next time I do it, I'll have even better quality.
Yes.
Because it's a learning process, right?
It totally is. I lucked out. I collaborated with this guy, Mike Henderson, with Plan 9 Studios in Denver. And he usually just does like sound recording and editing for feature films. So he is like all on the sharpness, and he knew all the tech stuff. Like,
that's cool.
He was the brain of the operation. You know what I'm saying? Great guy. Shout out Mike. And I also have musicians from Charleston, Jenna Desmond, Corey Campbell, two of my favorite creatives, very That's kind individuals. Yeah. The amount of talent they have is crazy. They will also be doing composing the music for my feature film Tanglewood, but they did all the music, over 400 track, like individual little tiny tracks of bits and samples for the Swimming audiobook.
That's so cool.
It's a vibe. Like go vibe out to it. It's really fun.
I might need to get that instead of reading.
Yeah, no, I won't judge you. It's totally more fun to ride around and listen to it. I just sent you the book because it's just it's physically nice to have.
I love having like the physical copies, because a lot of the times I get the like a e-version, which is fine because I know that
I can't figure out the formatting for that. That's why I don't have it.
Okay.
So I don't have the ebook.
Yep. So a lot of times I get that, which is totally fine, but then I'm stuck looking at electronics longer than I would if I didn't. So sometimes it's nice to have the paperback or the audio version.
Yeah,
So that is
it's fun. I ride around in my car listening to it. Sometimes they'll come on, and it's funny. All my friends are like, "Who's on your audio? Who's that reading?" I'm like, "It's me. I'm reading." Like I say that, Maggie Daniel. Like, what do you? And it's like my phone voice. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I know everybody has a different voice.
Yeah, I'm like I'm in character.
Exactly. I know. Same with mine. Like it's my story, so I know when to like go or when to like I didn't use the other voice. Right? Like it's important. I love audiobooks so very much. And so
it was really fun.
My goal is to turn all of them into an audiobook.
Yes. After I did the first one, I was like, this was fun.
Yeah.
I found it therapeutic and also emotionally. It was the first time I read all those poems out loud. And I was like, oh wow, I'm the piece of shit and all these like mentally breaking down piece of shit poems, like all the darker ones. I'm like, I had to take a minute. But we knocked it out. Yeah.
That is amazing. I love it. And so where do people follow you?
Oh, check me out. I got a website called maggielogic.com, MAGGIELOGIC.com. And Maggie Logic is a little saying my mom used to say before her mental health got to her, before she started just saying it's stupid. But she would say, oh, that's just Maggie Logic. If I said something people just didn't understand or was bass backwards, she'd be like, oh, that's just Maggie Logic.
Oh my gosh. I used to do that with my kid too.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny. So it just stuck. So MaggieLogic.com, Maggie Logic on Instagram, TikTok. It's Mags Logic on Twitter. Yeah, TikTok.
We gotta follow each other.
I feel really old on TikTok. Not gonna lie.
That's so okay. There's lots of us old people on there now.
Yeah,
it's fine. We've taken it over. It's ours now.
Yeah, we took it.
And the kids now need to find something different because it's ours. We stole it.
Yeah, for sure. That's where I get my true crime fix, because when you grow up in chaos and like trauma and stuff, it like only very like traumatic things are soothing. I don't know why it's so fucking mentally fucked up, but
because it's what you know.
Yeah, exactly. And for the long, like this year will be 10 years with my wonderful husband in September, and he's amazing and he's so kind and sweet. And sometimes I will just be like, I'll feel bored, and then I have to remind myself, and I'm like, oh, because I'm in a stable relationship. I don't know what stability feels like. Stability feels like I should run away from it because I don't know what it is. Like it's it's not my comfort zone, but it's mentally where I need, like, it's comfortable. Like, but I'm nervous, it's weird. So you just have to like rewire it. You know what I mean? I follow Gary Vee a lot, and his like constant, like in your face, like, what the fuck are you doing? Have a great day. Has really like helped me be like more positive, he's got this like fuck being sad, like you can be sad, but like you could be a rock, like you're not a fucking rock, you know what I mean? And like that kind of perspective, so like wow, we get to feel these emotions, like lucky us. You know what I mean?
That's so cool. So check out Maggie's links. They are all going to be down in the description below, of course. And make sure you grab a copy of her book, and make sure that you're checking out the blog. You're following along with that for when I do the review. And I have to say, I love poetry, so I'm looking forward to it. So thank you again, Maggie, for being on the show. Super excited. This was an awesome conversation. We could talk longer, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
So I gotta say goodbye.
Yeah, I gotta take the dogs out. So
that's what I'm gonna go do too. I can actually hear my dogs upstairs. They're starting to bark.
You know what? Who's in charge in the house? I think it's them. Like it's I mean, they say cats have staff, but you really do everything for a dog. You like hand and foot.
So last funny story to end this very interesting episode, and I don't mean interesting in a bad way, but like your childhood. How are you so normal right now?
Oh,
right? Like anyway, so funny story to end us on. So today I'm in my kitchen, and I'm like, we have this corner cupboard, it has a Lazy Susan in it, and that's where the cat treats, dog treats, all that stuff is in there, cat food. And I go to the bathroom, I have to pass this cupboard. Why the fuck is this door open? And I close it, and I come out of the bathroom like, what the hell is this? Like I literally just closed this, and I close it. Later I go back in, I'm like, why is this door always fucking open? Like I'm getting so annoyed. And I'm sitting at the table in the kitchen and eating breakfast probably or something, whatever. I was sitting there and my one cat comes out. I have 4 cats, but my one cat comes out, Smokey. She's a little fluffy asshole. And she comes out, she's rubbing up against the cupboard. You know how cats do. And then she looks underneath the cupboard and she opens the freaking cupboard.
Yeah.
Jumps in and is eating open the treat bag. I had to put it, we actually went to the dollar store and bought a container so I can put the treats in it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
have to lock the cats out of things and you have to hold the dog's hand to get to the food bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my gosh. I was like, you little. Actually, I TikTok that today. So if anyone is following me on TikTok at Fred Daff and the Gang, that's my animal TikTok, you will see Smokey the little biatch opening the cupboard to get to the treats.
Love it. I'm gonna stalk you and follow you on everything.
Oh, you totally have to. 100%.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And I think we need to talk again one day.
Of course. I'm always, hey, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just making art over here. So
love it. And then me and Maggie, we just kept talking and talking and talking. And then I'm like, wait, puppies. We both need to go walk our puppies. So we had to say goodbye. But I think she needs to come back on the show because I want more to her story that we never even got to. So yeah, we do. So make sure again, of course, you check out her links down in the description below. We got to give everybody some love here on this channel because it's a hard work being an author. And even if you're not into poetry, you can follow, you can share her stuff. Somebody you know probably is. And of course, we have our merch store. Look, I'm actually wearing one of the merch store. Oh, here we go. Ride or Die Show. Has a cool lion on the back. So make sure that you check out our merch store. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.